All right, guys, today we are going to be reacting to German election 2025, a brief guide to the party. This is very interesting. Let's jump in.
So perhaps now is as good a time as any to take a brief look at the main parties involved and what they stand for. And when I say brief, I really do mean brief. If you're eligible to vote in Germany, you need to study the parties' manifestos very carefully and make your own decision. That's democracy. Now, Germany has a parliamentary system, so although we are actually voting for members of the Bundestag, this will also determine who gets to form the next government. And because there are more than two political parties and we have proportional representation, that is almost certainly going to be a coalition of more than one party. I'll begin with the parties of the previous coalition, starting with the SPD. This is the mainstream left-wing party. It's basically happy with capitalism, but wants it regulated with decent rights for workers. This is the party of Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who has been criticized for his general lack of leadership skills. Also, he's been linked to some financial scandals dating from before he became Chancellor. The Greens, obviously, focus mostly on the environment. When it was first founded, it was mildly anti-capitalist, but has since taken a more pragmatic approach and is now advocating an eco-social market economy, similar to the SPD, but with more renewable energy. However, the Greens have often irritated voters who feel that they're being preached to, with critics saying that it's trying to impose an ideology at all costs. The party says that its position has been misrepresented, but some members have conceded that it has failed to listen to and communicate with the voters.
I think that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, just regroup, get it together, and just send a message.
The FDP wants to be seen as the party of fiscal responsibility. It wants small government with less bureaucracy and more freedoms, but it also wants to avoid government debt and keep the country financially stable. This is the party that recently left the governing coalition, causing its collapse. Most critics say that it's almost religious dedication to avoiding government debt at a time when billions of euros needed to be invested in the infrastructure paralyzed government. And some even say that it deliberately engineered the collapse. Voters seem to agree, and it seems that this time round the FDP is going to fail to win a single seat.
Damn.
So those are the three parties that formed a governing coalition 3.5 years ago. There are dozens and dozens more, but let's just mention the most important parties that actually stand a chance of winning seats. First is a group of two parties, the CSU in Bavaria and the CDU everywhere else, collectively known as the Union. This is the mainstream right-wing party. It wants a market economy that is regulated to a degree, but not as much as the SPD. This is the party of Angela Merkel, whose decision in 2015 to welcome Syrian refugees remains controversial to this day. Its current chancellor candidate is Friedrich Merz, who is a bit more to the right than Merkel was and wants more controls on immigration. But he's been criticized as being a bit of a dinosaur with some very old-fashioned ideas about things like equal rights. The AfD...
How is that? I just old-fashioned equals right. I don't know. I just got lost a little bit there. I don't know why.
Is the party that everybody is talking about at the moment. It has grown from a small, mildly Eurosceptic movement to an influential right-wing populist party campaigning for very tight controls on immigration and even now complete withdrawal from the EU.
Damn.
Its critics claim that the AfD is basically a fascist party, which the AfD denies. Courts in some states have identified it as extremist, and it is suspected of pursuing aims that are hostile to the Constitution. If that suspicion can be backed up with enough solid evidence, the AfD could potentially be banned.
I don't think that's a good idea, guys. Banning a party, never a good idea. Never a good idea, guys. The reason is because then the other one, if something happened where the other parties get power, they can ban you. You see what I'm saying? You have to. There's a saying that ideas need to be deleted during discussions or debates, right? That's the best way you can delete them. If they're that wrong, they're so fascist and all that stuff, you have to debate them and expose them. That's the strongest argument you got. Because if you suppress them, you create a bigger monster. A bigger monster. And that you don't want nothing to do with that bigger monster. You want nothing to do. So I would suggest It's my opinion for Germans, right? You don't have to follow anything that I said because, again, I'm just an American. I just know American politics, but I follow politics quite often here in the United States. It seems that in other countries, certain things are like rules just written in a rock kind of thing. You banning parties is never a good idea, guys. Never. Or banning ideologies is never a good idea, because what they do is they boil, right? They boil. Now, the only time that you can ban an ideology, right, which I think is fine, is when they're terrorists, right? When these people are just, causing harm, right? Literally causing harm. I think you can make an argument for that. But for something like this, which ideas are just flapping around, just have debates. You don't have to ban anything. Just have the debates.
Left is a strongly left-wing party that seeks to introduce reforms to finally overcome capitalism, replacing it with a form of democratic socialism. But it is in many ways a continuation of the SED, the party that ruled East Germany as a single-party state with an authoritarian government and fake elections. Wow. So far, it doesn't seem to have convinced voters that it's changed very much since then. Finally, we have the BSW, named after its founder, Sarah Wagenknecht, although it is now looking for a new name with the same abbreviation. Wagenknecht actually resigned from the left in order to found her party, which advocates peace and redistribution of wealth. But many feel that peace here means appeasing Russia, which most voters see as an aggressor who won't listen to reason. Many of its policies feel oddly similar to those of the
that's not a good position. You're appeasing, meaning that you're trying to get the approval of. Nah.
AfD, and there are splits within the party, with some members complaining that it feels like a personality cult. In terms of what the result is going to be, that's probably a bit difficult to predict with any accuracy. But it looks as if the Union is going to win the most seats, with the AfD running a strong second, followed by the SPD and the Greens. The mainstream parties all say that they want to keep the AfD out of government. In order to do that, it's likely that the Union, the SPD and the Greens will have to form a coalition, which they seem prepared to do, with just one small problem. The problem is Markus Söder, leader of the CSU. Now, as I said earlier, the CSU is one of two parties making up the union. And while the head of the CDU, Merz, is already talking to the Greens about a possible coalition, Söder keeps saying that there is no way he's going to allow that to happen. No. Is Söder serious about this? Will he change his mind after the election? Well, I suppose that's just something we're going to have to find out.
There we go. I think he. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm educating myself in German politics, and it's very interesting. Because there's the Western world has certain problems, right? Migration seemed like one of the biggest ones, and also energy source. In the case of the gas, right? But migration seemed like a very, 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 very strong problem. And I think a lot of these things could have been resolved years ago. But here we are. Here's where Germany is. Hey, you guys vote for whoever you guys want to vote. I still don't know quite yet what are the. He explained it very well, but it's just too many parties, man. Too many parties, and you have to be careful, right? Because it all depends what's benefit for Germany. You have to think about what's benefit not only for you but for Germany, right? I mean, because Germany, different from the United States, you guys have a very strong social government, right? Very strong, and it seems like it's effective in certain areas, I guess. But for how long, right? For how long? And thus the German government can keep it up for the next couple of years. And if that's the case, they might just vote more lefty. But if the migration problem is a bigger problem, things can change, right? Because the AfD seems like it's a more conservative libertarian, whatever that means, right? In their terms. From what I'm understanding, low taxes, a small government, getting, in this case, the party seems like they tax themselves for the EU, which, well, I don't know. Germany have a very strong. I don't know, man. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like always, I will see you in the next one.